Welcome back to the SCIF. I'm Matt. That's Chris. Welcome. We are the Green Beret Life. We're a 501c3. I want to make another announcement. I made it last week. We are doing a free pistol fundamentals and CCW for veterans and their spouses. This is going to be on September 9th in Grantsburg, Wisconsin. So if anybody is in the area or knows anybody in the area, it's a vet and wants to come out and get some good free training, right? Have them get a hold of us. Where can they get a hold of us? What's our email, Chris?
It is the greenberetlife@gmail.com.
Perfect.
The greenberetlife@gmail.com. Shoot us email. We will get back to you.
And all that's required is 100 rounds of ammo, your pistol, hearing protection, eye protection, and a $5 range fee. Everything else is absolutely free. And we would love to have you. If you know anybody, send them our way. This is what we do. So with that being said, a ton of stuff has happened this week that we're going to cover a little bit of it, but we don't know where this, we're going to keep it open. We don't know where this show's going to go, right? We are on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on Odysee right now. We're going to try to monitor the comments the best we can. And that's one of the weak links with StreamYard. We've had a lot of luck with StreamYard, Chris, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a user-friendly platform.
Yeah.
So
one of the downsides to it is the only platform that you can stream the comments on is YouTube. So, you know, when we try to stream when we try to monitor the comments, we've got to have them open separately, Odysee and be watching ourselves, and Rumble. And then there's two forums in there, so you can have the comment or the live chat. We prefer you put it in the live chat. It's easier for us to see it, but we need to monitor both. So sometimes if we skip, we definitely do not mean to, because we love the comments that we get from people. We love the input and all of that. You guys are the cream of the crop out there. You guys know what the hell's going on. We get on here and we talk about the day's events, but we fully understand we're probably not introducing anything to you guys because you are on top of it as well. So what we're really trying to do is just open the discussion. And that's what we're going to do again tonight, because we've had several big events. The fires in Hawaii. We had a 75-year-old disabled man caring for his blind son. And the dude's also a veteran. We got a comment already. What's the comment, Chris?
A couple comments. Seastone, tell Matt I'll donate the ammo I left behind to the training day.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. We'll put that in there.
Time Force is here.
Good to see you, Time Force.
Sup, guys? Old news. Aliens are apparently real, but no one cares because shit's expensive and it's 110 degrees hot. And I agree. Even I don't care. Probably they're just saying that to hide something else.
Exactly. I mean, we see the alien thing. Everybody's like, ooh, but why is it corresponding with every time something drops on Joe Biden? When they can't provide an indictment for Trump, let's put something else out there. You know what I mean? So when something comes up, you know, that it's exposing Biden's or the Obamas or the Clintons, indict Trump, come up with some other story to get everybody looking over there. The fires in Hawaii. Now, obviously, something's not right out there. Something is not right. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this guy who was shot by the FBI. He did a stupid thing. Chris and I were talking about this just today. Threatened President Biden on Facebook. Okay. And he was 75, 300 pounds, short guy, pretty much disabled, had to walk with a cane. When he went to church, it was only 200 yards away, but he had to drive his car there. He was caring for his I don't know how old his son was, but his son was blind. And this guy was an Air Force veteran. And everybody that knew him said, no, he he made stupid comments online, but that was about it. He was this. You don't make stupid shit online. You don't say stupid comments. I mean, this turns out to be fatal for him. But they end up storming his house, the full SWAT team, at 6 a.m. in the morning. Broke his door down, broke his windows. We don't know what happened there, but I can pretty much tell you. And I watched Viva and Fry, or Viva and Barnes, the two attorneys, on their take on this morning, and they said, boy, had this guy shot back or done something that justified that what they did, you would have seen it already. And somebody asked, well, don't they have cameras? And they said, yeah, you'll never see them. And if they did have camera footage, it's gone, right?
The FBI having camera footage. That's
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
it's comical, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
that's hilarious.
So local law enforcement has to have cameras. Why do federal? No. This is
Yeah.
why they want to federalize the police, dude. This is why. You know, you have no control over it because Washington says so, right? So sending a full SWAT team, first of all, if you're on one of those FBI SWAT teams, okay, you ain't an operator. You're pathetic. You're freaking pathetic. I've seen you in action twice. Okay, more than that, but twice come to mind. Storming the home of Roger Stone and his deaf wife when it's dark in the morning before they're awake. Full on SWAT team, full kit, M4s, night vision, the whole 9 yards for an elderly couple that would have turned themselves in at any time. And it was bullshit charges to begin with. How easy would it have been for them to get shot if they would have put up any resistance, Chris?
Yeah.
So first of all, if you guys think that you're operators, you're pathetic. That you know what, Chris, you have a term for that. These guys, these badasses that kick in the doors of elderly older people, right? And act like they're all badass. It's hardcore, isn't it?
It's hardcore, man.
That
I
shit's
mean,
hardcore. You are
hey,
you are a freaking operator, dude. You're a LARPer. You're a LARPer doing what your masters are telling you to go and do to other Americans. Okay. What are
and
you gonna say?
here's the thing. You know, I, dude, you and I both know every
Mm-hmm,
bit of training these guys go through.
mm-hmm,
Every bit of it,
mm-hmm,
right? You've probably worked with some of the guys in the past, and I've probably worked with some of these guys in the past,
mm-hmm.
right? And I get it; they're only just doing their job or whatever,
Yeah.
okay? But, dude, here's all I can say is think, man, think, right? And at the end of the day, I remember a time where you could just go up to the door and knock, and have a conversation with somebody, you know, instead of kicking in the door in the middle of the night. You know what I
They're,
mean?
they're claiming that they knocked on his door the day before and he was gruff with them, right?
Yeah,
But why not do a call out, right? Surround the house, do a call out then.
something.
I mean, you
Yeah.
go bursting through somebody's door in the middle of the night. What do you think their reaction is going to be? And I don't know what his reaction was here. I do know he was overweight and he was pretty much disabled. And he's got a blind son in the house, right?
If somebody's breaking through your door in the middle of the night, what are you thinking?
Exactly. Exactly.
Somebody is coming in to do me harm. Period. There's
So,
no other reason somebody's at my door trying to break it in.
and right now, Chris, you are on to where I'm going down with this because listening to Barnes and Viva, right? They were saying because Jack Posobiec put out this was done to intimidate other people. They went there, and this is not me saying this is what's been said out there. Okay, they went there to kill this guy to make an example of him for anybody else thinking that they can go and get uppity against the federal government. This is, and I'm paraphrasing on what that was, right?
Yeah.
But this is what they were saying. It's
Mhm.
full intimidation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's-
this is further evidence. I mean, because we can look back to Ruby Ridge, right? Hey, Ruby Ridge. Ruby Ridge. Do you know the sniper in Ruby Ridge and Waco was the same dude?
No, I didn't know this.
There's going to be something else that comes up tonight that should tingle your spidey senses, Chris. Okay, and this has to do with the incident in Hawaii and Las Vegas, right? But this in Ruby Ridge, just to recap that in case you guys don't know, right? I'm getting texts here. The they were hiding in a tree watching, okay, on this guy's property, okay. Terry Weaver, I think. The son and his dog were out on their property. The dog discovered a bunch of dudes up in a tree and they shot the dog. They shot the dog on his own property. Right? This is a police mentality for some reason. I think half these dudes are afraid of freaking dogs. Okay? Cops shoot dogs all the time. That's such a bitch move. Another thing, I don't think I'm shitting on all cops. I used to be a cop. But I can tell you, some of these dudes are complete freaking douchebags. A douchebag kicking in the door of an elderly, fat, overweight person, okay, with a blind son inside, or an elderly couple with a deaf wife, right? Acting like they're all hard on commando. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Complete bullshit in my book. Complete bullshit. These are fellow Americans, man. So anyways, it's so preposterous to me. The best gear, supposedly all of this training, and they're this is the type of peddly ass shit they're doing. You ought to rethink your freaking life. That's all I have to say. But anyways,
so I'm going to make one last comment on this, Matt. Which, okay, so here's my one last comment on this: is why isn't the FBI have a force that can respond to active shooter scenarios with these dudes, right?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah,
How
exactly.
about you get your gear together,
Mm-hmm.
all your high-speed training, and react to active shooter scenarios?
That's a good. Why
Okay.
isn't there? Why aren't there crisis teams in different parts of the country that can react quickly? You know what I mean?
If you're so high speed, you
Yeah.
should be able to handle an active shooter,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
These active, we've seen, you know, and we've had a couple guys that did the right thing, you know, in Nashville. These guys went and did the right thing. They went in the building, didn't know what they were going to face. Turns out to be a trans chick, and they shoot that, but they did it. You had the other guys in Texas that were afraid to go up the hallway to a classroom when they can hear kids getting shot. That is so pathetic. That is so pathetic. Some little dipshit with a gun, they're afraid to go and take that guy on when he's in there shooting little kids. Give me a freaking break. Chris, how long would it take for an ODA to get in there and kill that dude dead?
Dude, minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Seconds. As soon as you can get up into there.
yeah. However long it takes to get from point A to point B, that's it. You know what I mean?
And I'll say that
to
I'll say that with a team of dudes from the 82nd or the 101st. Anybody in the military that's used to doing this shit from overseas, right, isn't going to be afraid of some little pussy with a freaking AR in a room killing a bunch of kids.
Yeah. They're used to much bigger threats, and I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So
we have a comment here.
okay.
Time Force. Most people don't realize cops hate cops the most.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I always say this. You know, when I was a cop, it was divided because there were some really great dudes there, and I always say, you know, what makes a good cop and what makes a bad cop, Chris. Okay, because I say the good cop is a guy who would also be a good SF dude, to be honest. It's a guy who understands people, understands behavior, can read the situation, de-escalate the situation, right? And use some common sense and judgment when they show up to say, okay, I know you, this is all bullshit, but let's get this thing sorted out, calm down, and who doesn't have to go to jail tonight, right? Those are good cops, and unfortunately, we're losing guys like that. The guys who know everybody in the neighborhood, The guys who you can trust for their opinion, they're beat cops. They don't want to be in a leadership position in most cases, unfortunately, right? They do their job. They do their job well. They don't get involved in bullshit, and they go home. They learn. They take nothing personal, right? See, you go up to somebody's car window and they start with the barrage of fuck you, this, that. And a good cop can let that go in one ear and out the other and actually find a little bit of humor in it. If you take it personally, you're in the wrong business, pal. You're in the wrong business, right? If you're going to panic because you see a gun in the car with a dude who's got a CCW, okay, you're in the wrong business, pal. You are in the wrong business, right? Because you're taking a situation that might be here and you're bringing it up to here when you should be bringing it down to below the steering wheel here as I speak, right? Okay. Now the dipshit cop, okay, and unfortunately, a lot of these guys wind up on SWAT teams. You hear me say this type of stuff, and I ain't shitting on everybody because, like I said, it's like there's more good cops than bad cops, but there's a percentage of bad cops that ruin it for everybody. Okay, and these guys I call super troopers. Chris, you've heard me talk about this story in the
Yeah.
past. Yeah, the super
Yeah.
trooper, the super, the super trooper, and I'm going to give my assessment is the guy who wishes he was in the military but never went, right? And joins the police thinking, it's going to be like the next best thing. Joins a SWAT team and then all of a sudden thinks that he's a real operator, like 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 he's in the military. But he doesn't know how far wrong he is. It is nothing even like that. Okay, nothing. He hasn't gone through the amount of suffering to get into a unit like that. He hasn't gone through the training. He hasn't shown that he is a special individual that is capable of doing this. None of that shit, right? It's an old boys club in most cases, right? And like I said, I don't want to paint the brush because there's some good dudes out there. I keep saying this because I don't want to sound shitty like this, but the super trooper is the guy that is out there trying to find the crime at all times, right? I know there's drugs in that car, so I'm going to find some bullshit suspended object in the state of Minnesota. If you have an air freshener hanging from your rear view mirror, that's technically illegal, and that's probable cause to pull a car over, right? So something like that, right? That's what they're looking for because they've profiled somebody and said that dude's a shitbag. I know there's something in that car, right? So he finds something he can use as probable cause to pull that car over and start going through everybody's shit, violating Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, right? And if somebody pulls a car over like that and pulls people out, well, guess what? He needs backup. So now he needs to get some other dude who has no choice. He has to back him up, right? Back him up when this dude is doing something he shouldn't be doing, right? You know, the benefit of the doubt goes to the citizen, right? If you feel that you have to violate their constitutional rights, you're freaking wrong. I don't care if you know. Now, if you suspect that they've kidnapped somebody in that car and somebody's life is at risk, that's another story. If you just suspect, I think that person's a shitbag because I've identified the car, I've identified the individual that's in the car, I've identified maybe he's pulling out of a riverboat casino or whatever, right? I just have a suspicion, you know, there's something in that car that he's not supposed to have, or this is what I'm talking about, right? Or the person that doesn't cut the local citizen a break because they broke the speed limit, you know, when all of us have broken the speed limit. Now, if somebody has broken it egregiously, I get it, right? But for a small petty traffic, that really bugs me too, you know? But violating somebody's constitutional rights, showing up and like trying to figure out how many people need to go to jail that night, as opposed to the good cop, what I was talking about before, right? Because, you know, I'm going to go out and get X number of DWIs and set the record, right? Well, you should be taking people off the road that have DWIs, but going out there and trying to sniff it out to set some record to make yourself look good, bullshit. That means you're probably going to do shit you're probably not supposed to be doing, right? So it's a thankless job. Like I said, the vast majority of police are excellent people. But you get a few of these guys who ruin it for everybody. This guy, Derek Chauvin, down there, ruined shit for everybody because he took shit personal. And the guy was a 20-year cop. Now, the other guys that were with him that were brand new, two of them are now, I think, a complete bullshit deal, going to jail for 5 years. One of them who just held the crowd back, brand new cop. Tell me how that is fair. And these new guys even said to him, "Aren't you worried about excited delirium?" They have no control over a cop that's 20 years their senior when they're brand new. So this is all virtue signaling by the legal system, and it's complete bullshit. But that cop is an example of somebody who took things personally, and all he had to do was let that guy sit. The guy was dead already because he had ingested so much fentanyl. Let him sit there, wait for the ambulance, send somebody with him on the ambulance just in case he starts getting out of control, and wipe your hands of it. It's done. The whole country doesn't have to burn because of it. No, no. He got out there. This dude died. It had nothing to do with him kneeling on his neck. The autopsy showed this. He was going through excited delirium because he had poisoned himself with fentanyl. When they showed up, he ate it. So this is the difference between a good cop and a bad cop, taking some examples there. So when he said some of the people who hate cops the most, I don't hate cops. I don't. I dislike bad cops because they screw shit up for everybody. It's a job that requires skill and an ability to reach and get along with people and communicate. And if you don't have those skills, you're in the wrong business. A fox on an ODA, Chris, right? If you can't go over and make the people you're trying to get information off of think that you're their buddy, are you going to be successful?
No.
Hell no. You ain't going to get any information. You can get nothing. You might get information, it'll be bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way. To be a good cop is not everybody can do that. You've got to be a people person, and you've got to have some compassion and some understanding. And first and foremost, you're out there to protect the citizens, not violate citizens' constitutional rights. And that's the end of my story on that. But do you have anything you want to add to that, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, I think we need, our culture is in a such a way that we probably need a police force. Um, but at the end of the day, do I think the police force needs to be that big? No. I'm not about defunding the police at all. What I am about is funding the proper amount of police and training them in the proper way. That's what I'm about.
Yeah,
Okay.
you just hit
So,
on something here, because our last subjects, we were talking about these accidental discharges going off. In every case, these things are operator error. Every
yeah,
case.
yeah, yeah. Hey, speaking of which, that I'm glad you brought that up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because what is the sister gun to the 320?
The 365.
No, no, no. The sister gun, the one that let's say its predecessor, the predecessor
Oh, the
to the three.
250, the SIG 250. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have we ever heard of having any problems with the 250?
No, no, because
Right?
yeah. Now,
You
now
see where I'm going?
I know exactly where you're going.
Okay,
Now, if they
little
use
different gun,
if they use the 250, they wouldn't have any of this going on, because it's double action only. And this is what Chris is getting at.
right?
Striker fired first.
100%.
Yep. So it's a hammer fired gun, double action only. I think you're onto something, because the military, which adopted the 320, I love how this conversation goes this way and then that way. But the military, which adopted the 320, had them go with a safety. Okay. And most people would think, oh, my initial reaction, I don't want to strike a fired gun with the safety, right?
Right.
But is the military? I know I like to see these YouTube guys going on and saying that the military is having issues. The military ain't having any issues with the 320, zero. And most people like it. In fact, a lot of the special operations guys are choosing to go with the 320 over the Glock, right? And this is how the Icarus Precision Grip, if anybody's interested in that, came to be out in Washington State, first group guys. And there's something to be said, because police, here's, Chris mentioned they need training. They don't get enough training. A good police department, in fact, the department I worked for actually did things pretty well. We trained, I was a firearms instructor there. We trained once a quarter, okay, which is 4 times a year, which is still nowhere near. If you're a professional that carries a firearm, you need to train all the time, okay? That means on your own. That doesn't mean the police department has to buy you all the. You chose to go into law enforcement and carry a gun for a living. That means you have a certain responsibility upon yourself, which you would have if you were in the military. Your job is to maintain your equipment, right? Which that's another story we're not even going to get on today, right? I was our armorer as well. Maintain your equipment and keep yourself proficient. And that doesn't mean you have to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars, but I would say a box of ammo every 2 weeks at the bare minimum is something that you should be going through and practicing your fundamentals and practicing your draws, dry fire, all of this stuff. Okay. Well, most cops don't. And some departments only train once a year. They qualify once a year. Okay. That means some of these cops will only shoot once a year. Okay. There were a bunch of police in my department that would only shoot when we trained. That's 4 times a year. You're carrying a firearm every day. Are you going to be proficient with a firearm training 4 times a year? Chris, no,
No.
not even close. Not
No.
even close. And they need training. So whether part of that training says, okay, I'm just trying to think, how could you enforce, right? So you get a box of ammo a week, right? You're on your own. This could be an affordable way for them to do this. You're on your own, okay? I want to see 2 targets. Bring me 2 targets back from training, right? Something, at least they're using a flat range, which is basic training, right? Using a flat range. You're not shooting from cover. You're not shooting from different, but that's some way you could verify, right? Or what you could do is you could, if you were a chief, go to a gun range and get a membership for the whole department. And then when they show up, they use their ID and you can see who is showing up at the gun range to practice on their own, right? That would be a very affordable way for a police department to at least verify that they're even getting the guns out and putting some rounds downrange, okay, in addition to the department supplied training, right? It behooves you though, and we're getting back to this, the gun, because a lot of these police officers don't train as much. A safe gun is probably going to be a better option, and that's probably going to be a hammer fired double action, single action, or double action only. Now, to shoot a double action only gun fast and efficient, you've got to practice with it, right? You've got to practice with it because you've got that long trigger pull. Okay. The SIG 250 is a smooth and it's about 5.5 pounds, but it's a long trigger pull, long reset. Okay. That means if they're going to stick something in their holster, right, and they've been taught to put their finger on the hammer, and there's something in that holster, and they start to insert that gun, that hammer's going to want to start coming back, isn't it, Chris? Right?
Yep.
Now, oops, there's something in my holster, right? Oops, maybe this won't work in a holster made for a different gun, right? So it's an extra added amount of safety, right? At a bare minimum, if you're going to go with the striker fire gun and you have a safety, it stops the trigger. It works just like a safety on an AR. It stops the trigger. So they go to put that gun, boom, in their holster, and something's in that holster. The gun won't push in. It might be pushing off the trigger, but it's not doing anything because it's on the safe. It's on safe. Won't allow that trigger. And I think that is an option. but I'm thinking more and more and more. You know, one of the things the SIG doesn't have is a trigger safety, and that will that'll solve some of the problem, because if something's hitting the trigger on an angle, it can't push it back. But if it's directly hitting the center of the trigger where it depresses that safety, it's still going to go off, like a Glock or a Walther or an M&P. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think the answer is probably you're onto something. They don't make the 250 anymore, unfortunately. Um,
Yep.
Double action, single action gun, or a striker fired gun with the safety. Very few striker fired guns offer safety. SIG does. So any police department, if I were purchasing guns for cops in a police department, it would probably, I'd probably still go with the 320 with the safety. Just because the price and everything else. The 250 I would have no problem going with. It's just you can't get them anymore. They don't
Right.
make
Right.
them.
Right. Yeah, it was one of them things um that I was thinking about today, and I'm like, you know what? Wow. Here's the 250. Here's this could solve I think this could solve problems, but like you said, and
Mhm.
yeah, they don't make it anymore, which is unfortunate. I think it's a nice gun.
Yeah,
You know, now the 320 is a great gun too, but
yeah,
um yeah,
yeah.
something I was tossing around today.
Everybody wants to be the cool guy today and shoot a million rounds a minute and pretend like they're John Wick, right?
Hmm.
Uh, the 250, if you can master the 250, you're going to be a good shot. The 250 makes you slow down, right? It makes you slow, and somebody without training, slowing them down helps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it helps them get those other fundamentals. Can you shoot the 250 as fast as a straight? No. Okay. But why do you need to? You know what I mean? So it's not a three gun competition. It's not USPSA. It's not, you know what I mean? Um, so I think there'd be a lot of value to that. But I don't know if departments would pick it up because people would bitch. The 250 was not a liked gun because it's double action only, and that's not in vogue, right?
Right.
So people don't want double action, single action anymore. They want striker fired guns, and there's some people that want the going back to the 2011 style gun, which is single action only with a safety, which is still probably better. But if you don't operate the safety, you put that gun in your holster without putting that safety on with a 2.5, 3 pound trigger, right? On a new 2011, what are you going to do? You're going to blow a hole through your ass,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's my knee jerk solution is make the guns idiot proof. But even if you make the guns idiot proof, there's going to be ways that are found around to have these. Oh, the gun's going off by itself. You know, you know, if you're a cop and you have an AD, that is a potential career ruining event. So if you can blame it on the gun, they're going to blame it on the gun, right? So this is what goes down. But do you have any more comments out there, Chris?
Nope, no more comments.
So we also want to talk about the fires. But before I do that, I want to talk about Georgia real quick. Um, we've got a prosecutor down in Georgia that comes. Her father is a Black Panther. If anybody understands any of this, kind of tells you what you're dealing with down there. They made up a bunch of bogus charges that have to do with the 2020 election. By state law, you're supposed to get a court case. Trump never got a court case in 2020 because nobody would touch it. The appeals courts wouldn't touch. Nobody would touch it. Okay, and you have a governor that Trump helped get elected in that state, who, boy oh boy, if I was a betting man, I would guess he spent some time on an island or something from his behavior, right? Wouldn't you? With his
Yeah.
behavior from
Yeah.
2020, and then remember it was his daughter's boyfriend who got in the car crash with the Prius where the engine was blown. How far away was that engine blown from the car, Chris?
I think 50 feet, wasn't it, or something?
Some
Like something
shit like that.
ridiculous.
That was a car crash with a mushroom cloud, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened because there was a lot of pressure being put on him to call an emergency session and do an audit, right? And do an audit down there, because if an audit would have been done, guess what? The gig would have been up, and then audits would have had to been demanded in other states as well, right? So what we end up with is a Prius with a mushroom cloud above it, and it's block blown 50 yards away, and another cop who commits suicide in his garage. Right. So that's what we had down there that people seem to forget so easily. So, anyways, this crooked pile of garbage brings charges against Trump, and before the grand jury, we've already seen that goofball who identifies herself as a witch. That's the four person for the grand jury that went on all the media talking about how she wanted to read Trump the riot act to his face personally, right? They released all of the charges verbatim, what he ended up being charged with, before the grand jury had convened and voted on what the charges were going to be. So the clerk down there accidentally, oopsie, and then erased it. Exactly what was released a few hours later after the grand jury had decided to indict, right? And then what they're doing here, and I want to make this very, very clear, they're charging them, it's a RICO charge, which is what they used. They started it back in the 70s. Rudolph Giuliani is the one who really mastered this. This is how he took down the mob in New York, right? And that's what this is. RICO charges are really for, organized crime. So what they do, they brought this up on Trump, and he has 18 co-conspirators. Now, what they're doing with those 18 co-conspirators, Chris, is they're going to put pressure on them, because this is a serious charge, and even though it's all bullshit, it's a serious charge, which includes, one of it is Trump was watching TV and tweeted out, "Watch OAN right now." That's one of the charges, believe it or not. So what they're going to do is put pressure on these 18 co-conspirators that want to get off, not go to jail. Say this about Donald, like what they've done in all of these other cases, right? Say this about Donald Trump, and you're a witness for us, and this will all go away. This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. Now, Jenna Ellis, Trump's former attorney, is now a flack for Ron DeSantis, and she's one of the co-conspirators, right? Does that sound kind of fishy?
Yeah.
Right? You think she's going to have any qualms about saying whatever she needs to about Trump in order to get out of this?
No.
So, and this is kind of as shady as the deal that they did up in Washington, D.C., right? Where they interviewed Pence, and then they tell Trump he can't talk about any details of the case that have to do with witnesses. Well, Pence is now a witness, right? But Pence can go out there and talk about it, and Jack Smith can go out there and talk about it and try to cause damage to Trump. But if Trump says something about Pence, they can bring him back up there and throw him in jail. This is what's going on, folks. This is a complete abomination of our justice system. This is unconstitutional. Every person that has brought this should be in jail. Marjorie Taylor Greene actually brought up a point, okay, because RICOs are around conspiracies. So that means that it's a group of people that have got together and said, we're going to do this, and it's illegal, right? We're going to do this. Here's how we're going to go about doing it. That's a conspiracy right there, okay? So Marjorie Taylor Greene says, the coordination between the Department of Justice and Alvin Bragg in New York and Fannie Williams down in Georgia, and the federal case with the judge who was born in Jamaica, right? Never Trumper judge who's putting in January 6ers and giving them more time than what the prosecution is asking for, right? So these people are all getting together and basically saying, how do we keep Trump from winning the presidency? Here's how we're going to do this. That is a RICO case right there. And does anybody have any doubt this is what's going on? Because they're trying to make these trials, they're trying to bring them extremely quick, right? So that they interfere with the primaries. In fact, the one in Georgia, they wanted to have the trial start 2 days before Super Tuesday. Chris, you there? You're on mute.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. So This is what's going on down there, folks. And here is the what gets me. Okay, you've heard me talk about the Republican Party and what a disaster it is, with the exception of a small minority in the Republican Party. The rest of them are trash, and they might as well be Democrats, right? Because the Republican Party could stop all of this right now, and they haven't lifted a finger except for. Do we have that article in what I sent you, Chris, in Georgia? I'm trying to remember the guy's name.
Yeah.
Chris. Yeah. Yeah. A state
There's
senator out of Georgia is finally the only Republican apparently in the country that has a set of balls, because he is pushing to open an investigation for impeachment for Fannie Williams, which is exactly what needs to happen. You go after them. Republicans are pathetically weak, first of all. But the reason why they're not acting is not just because they're weak, right? It's because they're establishment goons and they want Trump gone. They want the grift to continue with your taxpayer dollars. Be damned what it's doing to our country. That's what we're up against here. So I'm telling you, in Georgia, we have listeners that are in Georgia, right? It is up because Georgia, the Republicans that you have in Georgia are as establishment as they get. And Georgia is a red state, and Georgia is full of patriots that are not establishment types. So the patriots in Georgia need to get off of their asses and get down there and basically let every state legislature know, Republican state legislator know that if they don't get off their asses and stand up and get on board with going after these crooks down in Fulton County, okay, you will vote for the freaking Democrat in the next election. Because what's the point of having Republicans if they allow shit like this to go on? You will primary them, and if that's not successful, you'll vote for the Democrat. You've got to get in there. You've got to get to these people and let them know they are to represent you, not special interests. Chris, can you read that a little bit?
Can you read it?
What's the senator's name?
It's Colton Moore.
Colton Moore. Colton Moore. Colton Moore is a good dude. If you're in Georgia, I believe his district is far north and east. So it's going to be up around the Chattanooga, Alabama area up there. Kind of up where the mountains and everything are. Kind of where Mountain Phase is for Ranger School. All right. So you need to support this guy. And you need to start calling your representatives, your state representatives, and your state senators. You've got a compromised governor in that state. You've got a secretary of state that's a crook, Raffensperger, and you've got I think he's the former lieutenant governor who is right in there with them, a complete piece of shit. They're all Republicans, but you need to get on all of these swamp creatures that call themselves Republicans, and they better start representing you, because ultimately it's not Trump. They're going after you because they stole your vote. They stole your vote in Atlanta. And they're continuing to steal your vote now to do everything they can to make sure Trump can't run. So, we can push our anger at the Democrats. It ain't going to get us anywhere, right? The people that are supposed to be representing us and protecting us from fraud of the government, the state government in this case, are not doing a damn thing. They're working with them if they're not doing anything. So the people need to rise up and put pressure on these state legislators, because they didn't do a damn thing in 2020 when your votes were stolen in Georgia, folks. Those were your votes. Don't look at this as going against Donald Trump. You voted for Donald Trump. Your votes were stolen in Atlanta, Fulton County, DeKalb County. Your votes were stolen there and in other places, I'm sure. So the same thing in Pennsylvania. Same thing in Pennsylvania. They were stolen in two places, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. I know where Chris is from in Pennsylvania. You can't throw a rock and find a Democrat. There's no way. There is no way. It's all hardworking, blue collar, patriots in Western Pennsylvania. That's what Barack Obama was referring to when he says they cling to their Bibles and their guns. He was talking about Western Pennsylvania. All of Pennsylvania, with the exception of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, are conservative. Those two areas there, especially Philadelphia, is one of the biggest shitholes in this country. And it's the same template, riddled with crime. You've got activist people that are put in power there that don't have the ability to be in the jobs that they're in. I mean, you can confirm Pennsylvania, Chris, a little bit for the folks out there. It's the same thing. It's the same thing in Michigan. It's the same thing in Wisconsin. It's the same thing. There are metropolitan areas in Wisconsin, Madison and Milwaukee. Madison and Milwaukee. They're stealing everybody else's votes in Madison and Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, here we have a classic, rural versus urban area, you know, and
Are
yeah,
we still on YouTube? Yeah, fuck it.
yeah,
Fuck it. Yeah.
um, yeah. I mean, it's classic all over. You see it in Pennsylvania. You're going to see it in Wisconsin. You're going to see it in Michigan. You're going to see it, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
we're naive to think that this ain't going to happen again.
Yeah.
So, to me, the gig's up, but you know, how much more is it? How many more times are we going to see the gig before the gig gets totally smashed? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it,
Well,
that's what I'm worried about.
it's so funny. It's so funny, Chris. Let's take the time right now to get off of YouTube. Although we've gotten a strike, I guarantee you. I guarantee you we got a strike. So I forgot we were still on there.
All right, hold on.
Sorry, guys, on YouTube. Please come and